Part B of the strategy is, as you look up Broadway, there are additional opportunities for retail there. That land use pattern will be a little bit different, but additional retail in that area would really complement and support retailing in the Triangle area. And as you move up, there are several large sites that Steve pointed out before that could be attractive for large format retailers, maybe a Target in that area. Those tend to be their own anchors. There's also rooms for smaller retailers. The reuse of historic showrooms and old garages in that area is another potential for filling with the retail at the street level. So part B would be moving up Broadway. And even though the distances are quite long, they could be complementary and maybe even a little bit different, but they could provide more retailing. We looked at other uses that could be add mix to the area and also could be upper floor uses in many places for the retail. The housing market, of course, is the first one. There has been a lot of interest. Steve showed you pictures. Downtown housing, the development we've seen since 2000, a lot of that has moved up into this area, and those first blocks between Grand and 23rd already have major housing development in them. When you look to the long term, the potentials for housing are quite good. We've done some estimates that over the long term, potentially you could probably see 1,000 to 1,500 units in this area, maybe in the next 20 years. And more units probably in the area and nearby areas as the retail district became very successful. In the near term, as we all know, the housing market is in the doldrums still. It's going to take a while to recover. It's uncertain, but there are many people thinking it could be another 4 to 5 years before we see new housing projects begin here in Oakland. If that's the case, then it's going to be a little while before the market comes back again. And there are some approved housing projects already in our area, and if those were to go ahead, then there's a little time before they're absorbed before some new ones are built. So while the housing is a quite good market to look at in the long term, we're going to still, I think, need some time before it comes around. But I think it does provide good potential. The office market, there is some potential here. Probably smaller professional offices that could fill in, particularly in that retail district that I talked about in the Triangle area on upper floor space. The potentials for that get stronger as the district becomes more established. And you see in Berkeley, there's a lot of offices filled in around the 4th Street area, smaller office. And that's the kind of thing that would probably fill in here and provide some upper floor uses, some activity. You know, there could be smaller professional offices, be smaller high-tech software kind of things, but smaller businesses, not the major downtown office, but stuff that would fill in and appreciate the community and fabric of the area. Medical office has been talked about. There could be some potentials there, and probably they would focus on those sites further north, closer to the Pill Hill area and Kaiser, where access to those facilities would be a lot more significant. Now, in addition, hotel, while that is being focused and will continue to be focused in the downtown, waterfront, and the airport, there could be potential here for a boutique-style hotel, particularly in later phases, and possibly focused toward the lake or the downtown area, maybe in the southeast portion of the area, where you have some views and a little mobility to access the lake. And that could be another upper floor use to add activity to the area. If you had a bit of height, you could get some views. There may be some potential for that. And smaller convenience retail and service uses, those are going to continue to, demand will grow over time as the population in the area grows, and if you have a lot of retail activity growing, there'll be some support there that will be useful. Those things tend to be lower cost uses, the smaller ones that will sort of fill in, either in less active places in the new development or in existing buildings. And so that's something that sort of will fill in over time and add to the mix, I think. The auto dealers, Steve mentioned some about those earlier. As we all know, the trends in the industry and the recession right now are not at all favorable to those dealers. We've lost some here in Oakland. Sales are down quite a bit. We did take a look at the numbers, and I think through the end of 2007, and it's probably worse now, they were down 40% since 2001 here in our study area. And that's pretty significant. They're probably even lower now. However, there are some viable dealers that are likely to want to remain in the area, at least for a while. And so the planning process needs to take a look at that. We think potentially there could be 3 to 5 dealerships potentially remaining. And it may make sense to try to consolidate some of those activities, maybe even toward the middle of the study area. You had a retail district below, sort of in the middle, and then you had some major sites with retail up above. That will evolve a bit over time and something we want to take a look at. But I think they may benefit from new activities and they would fit into the area as well, as long as they were viable here. And just as a little overview, we looked at, after having looked at the market potentials, as you do that and other experiences with retail in other places, you begin to see various aspects that are going to be important for the implementation, the actual development, the planning, and then the development, and things to keep in mind when we're doing planning and thinking about how the area could develop most effectively. And I put some of these points down here. I think first of all, to achieve the city's objective of having some major retailing in the city, the destination retailing will have to be the priority here. It's the most difficult to do. There are very few places where we can do this in Oakland. The other uses clearly support it, but it has to be done in a way that makes it work, and then the other uses fill in and provide support. So that really needs to be a priority in order to achieve that objective. Achieving that critical mass of new retail will be key. Small amounts of new retail will not be enough to change enough shopping behavior to support the stores in the long term. So it has to be significant enough, big enough that we'd all be attracted to go there and enjoy going there. Retail is unusual when you compare different land uses because it has to be developed and managed as a unit. You know, when you build housing, you can build housing on your site, and your neighbor can build housing on his block, and you can move housing in different places, and you can have a little retail on the bottom. But when you do major retail, it has to go in and be developed and managed as a unit, at least a significant chunk of it. You have to entice the anchors to come, the major department stores or other big stores. You have to get those small stores to come. So it's more difficult, and it's not going to happen in lots of small pieces. It's going to have to be done overall. And so that's something as we do the planning, we're going to have to keep in mind how that could actually work. A mix of uses, as I've mentioned as we go, is very, very beneficial, and it's going to help here. We have high land values, higher than you see for suburban type retailing. Those upper floor uses also add a lot of interest to the whole district. So the mix of uses is very beneficial. It may be, though, that not every site can have the same mix, and so looking at that on an area-wide basis is going to make the most sense. Where can we put the housing? Where can we put the office? Where can we have the retail? Some retail, say a big major, may be by itself, but next to it will be all these mix of uses. So looking at it on an area-wide basis is the way that works. And lastly, projects around the state of the country or other places, or even in the Bay Area, that are as complex as we're talking about, as comprehensive, with a makeup like this, and with significant public benefits, have required fairly substantial public sector involvement as well. And so as we move through the planning and toward implementation, we want to keep our eye out to how this is going to work in the end. You know, just examples, in some places the public sector has helped in providing the parking, or the public areas, or any of the infrastructure issues, or helping with land, or a variety of things like that. Something this significant with the benefits it brings just doesn't happen totally in the private sector, so it will be a public-private operation.